Welcome to this Tutor to You revision video that looks at the mitigation strategies used to reduce the impact of climate change. This is part of Paper 1, Unit A, the challenge of natural hazards. We can try to reduce the impact of global climate change in two ways, by mitigation or adaptation. Mitigation strategies limit the cause of the issue. In this case, they reduce or prevent greenhouse gas emissions and they protect valuable carbon sinks. These strategies can be on a local or global scale, for example, investing in renewable energy. Adaptation strategies are where people respond to the impacts of climate change by adjusting how they live or work in order to make themselves less vulnerable. These strategies are local as they respond to localised impacts, for example, building homes on stilts in an area where there has been an increase in flood risk or planting drought-resistant seeds in areas of low rainfall. This video focuses on climate change mitigation. We will have a separate video for adaptation. Our first mitigation strategy is alternative energy. As the populations grow and economies develop, there is an increased demand for energy to fuel domestic appliances, transportation, food production, and industrial output. Much of this energy is created by burning fossil fuels which release CO2 into the atmosphere. As countries sign up to climate agreements, they are using alternative sources of energy. Many countries have invested heavily in nuclear energy. This uses uranium to generate electricity through the process of nuclear fission. It doesn't emit CO2 during energy production, so it is considered much better for the environment. However, it is extremely expensive, and many argue that the risk of radiation leaks or nuclear meltdowns make it unsafe. There has also been an increased investment into renewable energy sources. These will not run out and they do not emit CO2 during power generation, such as solar, wind, hydroelectric power and geothermal. Currently, renewable energy sources are more expensive than fossil fuels and they can be unreliable. For example, solar and wind power are dependent on the weather conditions. However, there are certain locations ideally suited. Solar panels are great for low-income countries that experience long hours of sunshine, particularly in desert regions, and wind farms are suited to countries with long stretches of coastline so they can be placed offshore, where the wind speeds are higher and fewer people will oppose. Hydroelectric plants are suited to highland areas with deep valleys and high rainfall totals, giving ideal conditions to build dams and reservoirs. The UK government set a target of 15% of its energy to come from renewable power by 2020. This has been regularly exceeded for several years. It is actually usually between 40 and 50%, although this does vary on a daily basis depending on weather conditions. The biggest share of this is wind power, which accounts for around 40% of UK energy. This is down to the huge investment into offshore wind farms around the UK. Our second mitigation strategy is carbon capture and storage. Coal is the most environmentally damaging fossil fuel. Unfortunately, it is still widely used in electricity generation across the globe, particularly in newly emerging economies. China gets 69% of its energy from coal and India gets 79%. However, in the last decade, the US's share of energy from coal has gone down from 50% to 20%. Carbon capture and storage enables coal to be used in a less damaging way. The Earth naturally stores CO2 underground in rocks and in the oceans. By using technology, it is possible to capture up to 90% of CO2 emissions from generating electricity and industry. This gas is then compressed and transported by a pipe into an injection well and injected into the ground where it can be stored, as you can see on the screen. Our third mitigation strategy is afforestation. Deforestation is a huge cause of climate change, loss of carbon storage, as well as releasing CO2 into the atmosphere as trees are destroyed. Planting trees reduces the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere through the process of photosynthesis, converting it into oxygen. Trees also release moisture into the air through transpiration. This cools and condenses to produce clouds, which reduce solar radiation. There are also other benefits of afforestation projects, such as increasing biodiversity and reducing the risk of desertification. For example, through the Great Green Wall that has been planted right across the Sahel region in northern Africa. Our fourth mitigation strategy is lowering emissions from transport. Countries like the UK are investing heavily into public transport to reduce the number of cars on the road, which would reduce the amount of CO2 emissions from transport. Huge infrastructure projects include the high-speed 2 rail link linking London to the north, and Crossrail, which has improved rail links across London. These projects will also benefit the UK economy. London also has the congestion charge and the low emission zone to reduce car usage across the city, as well as an extensive network of cycle paths along with bikes to hire and a fully integrated public transport system, making travel across the capital cheaper and more efficient. Buses on the network are either hybrid or fully electric. Across the UK, local councils promote park and ride schemes as well as car share schemes in a bid to reduce the number of cars in towns and cities. There has also been investment in electric vehicle technology in terms of the EV charging network across the country and developments to battery life. In addition, the government is planning to phase out the sale of new diesel cars, which are highly polluting. And of course, we need to mention the fact that countries meet regularly to agree international targets to fight the climate crisis. So please watch the next video to find out more about these. That concludes this Tutor to You revision video focusing on mitigation strategies to reduce the impact of climate change. Thank you for watching.